Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is the Elk County First Appearance docket for November the 13th, 2024. State of Kansas versus Lamont Zeiner.
Yes, sir.
24 TR 63. Council state their appearance, please.
May it please the court, the state appears by Jill Gillette, County Attorney.
All right. And are you Lamont William Zeiner?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Zeiner, at an earlier date, you had pled and were found guilty. That was in July of 24. Excuse me. That was in May of 24, May 29th of 24. There was a request for violation of probation. The warrant was issued, and you obviously have been picked up on that or surrendered yourself. Are in custody on that now. The warrant to show cause alleges that you violated the terms of your probation by failing to report as to court services, or your probation officer is directed, failure to report law enforcement contact within 24 hours, failing to submit to a urinalysis testing as requested, failing to make monthly payments as ordered, and failing to gain and maintain employment. Do you understand what the allegations are? I'm not asking if you agree or not agree, but at this time, but you understand what's alleged?
Yes, I understand.
And what is your position in regards to an attorney?
I had a court appointed. I think Mr. House was my attorney.
All right. Are you requesting the court appoint an attorney again?
Yes.
Very well.
I got the job at Sonic, but
hold on.
Okay.
You can fill out an application there at the sheriff's office. They will submit it to the court. I'll review it. If you meet the guidelines, and I'd appoint an attorney, probably Mr. House, and we would proceed. If you always have the right to represent, or excuse me, to hire your own attorney or to represent yourself as well. But generally speaking, most people are better off if they're represented by counsel.
Okay.
All right. So we need to set this for a hearing.
Can I be released?
Well, there was a warrant that was issued. Let's see what the bond is set at.
For the same charge.
1,500 cash or professional surety.
All right. So the bond was set. I set it at 1,500 cash or surety. Do the parties wish to address that?
Judge, it's kind of a low bond that's set with him, and there's been lots of issue with his probation. It's one of the reasons that he's here. And he's got pending charges in Butler. I just think 1,500 cash or professional surety is a pretty low bond.
Well, I'll hear your request, and then I'll hear from the defendant.
I just request it stay at 1,500 cash or professional surety.
Very well. Mr. Zeiner, would you like to address the bond? If so, you may do so at this time. I can't hear him. All right, you go ahead and sit down. He can hear me, but the mic cut out or something, but I'm not getting any sound. Still not getting any sound. It was working earlier, but now it's not.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, it's low, but I can hear.
Okay, just a minute. Let me see if I can turn it up a little bit. How about now?
Same issue, but I can hear. So,
Okay.
Mr. Zeiner,
I never missed a probation meeting. I never missed a court date. I last month I had a job interview, and I told my probation officer I had to leave, and he got me for refusing the UA. I had the job interview, and I didn't get the job, but I still have a job at Sonic. But I never missed a court date. I always go to my court dates.
all right. I'm going to leave the bond at 1,500 cash or surety.
Thank you.
I am going to require that you appear in person for that hearing. When we set a date that, so you need to show up at the sheriff's office if you make bond and be present there to do the hearing. If you're applying for an attorney, you need to fill that out today. If you make bond and, right away, then you come to the clerk's office and fill that paperwork out. If you are not making bond, you can fill it out there at the sheriff's office and it'll be submitted, but you need to do either way if you're asking for an attorney right away. And it looks like Butler County has a no bond hold on you on a traffic case.
Yes, they're the same.
So if you make bond here, then you'd be transported, Butler County would come pick you up and take you to there so you could see a judge in regards to that case.
Yes, I understand that, but it's for the same charge I'm here on.
Well, all right. Sarah, do you have a proposed date for the Revo hearing?
We can use that December 18th date at 4 o'clock.
Okay, December 18th at 4. Okay, again, Mr. Zeiner, if you are in Elk County custody, then we'll do it there. If you're free on bond on all your other cases or whatever cases you have, you need to show up at the sheriff's office voluntarily and do the hearing. If you are appointing an attorney and are out on bond, then you need to contact the attorney so that we're prepared to go on December the 18th. Additionally, if you don't make bond or they're not, if you're being held in Butler County, you need to advise your attorney of that. So arrangements can be made to do the hearing via Zoom from Butler County. But your hearing date is December 18th at 4.
Okay.
In the event that you make bond, you need to contact your probation officer as well.
All right, thank you. I could
Very well.
too, by the way.
That this matter is adjourned, and I believe that takes care of the docket. Is that correct? Good morning. This is in the matter of Lamont, State of Kansas versus Lamont Zeiner, case number 24 TR 63. Would counsel state their appearances, please?
May it please the court, this state appears by Jill Gillette, County Attorney.
Your Honor, the defendant appears by Gary House, his attorney. I appear from a courtroom in Independence, and my client appears from the Elk County Jail.
Very well. We are scheduled today for the state's motion to revoke probation. Are the parties ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
All right. Are there any announcements before we start with evidence?
Your Honor, the county attorney and I have talked this morning. I had previously talked to my client. He certainly would admit that he has not paid any of the costs in this case, except for a $25 payment that was made last week, which should reduce it down to $688. But as to most of the other issues set forth by the state in their pleadings, we don't feel he's violated the terms of probation to a great extent. He may have slipped up in one or two occasions. So it may take an evidentiary hearing. I know in talking with Ms. Gillette this morning, she wants, I believe she wants a UA of my client, and that'll probably have to be worked in sometime.
All right. Well, it doesn't sound like there's a stipulation, so we'll go ahead and proceed with the evidence. Ms. Gillette,
Your Honor, we'll call Tony Bauer.
Mr. Bauer, if you'd raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You're under oath, and you may proceed, counsel.
you please state your name for the record?
Anthony Bauer.
And how are you employed?
I am a court service officer with the 13th Judicial District, mainly in the Elk County and Butler County areas.
And are you the supervising officer that's assigned for Lamont Zeiner?
I am.
And when did you receive Mr. Zeiner?
Mr. Zeiner was placed on probation May 29th of 2024.
And are you supervising him on more than one case?
I am also supervising him on a Butler County case.
And as you've been supervising him, was he given the standard conditions of probation?
Yes, in both cases.
And while he's been on probation, has he been attending his meetings as directed?
He missed one. He was almost 30 minutes late for one, and then he left one early.
And during those sessions, have you requested of him UAs?
The one he left early, I did request a UA.
And when he left early, and you requested that UA, did he ever perform that UA for you?
No, he did not. He did call later and ask when his next appointment was, and I scheduled him for another appointment.
Had he even scheduled with you his next appointment before he left the area?
He had not. We had talked about a UA. He got irritated with me asking and stated that he's on for driving while suspended and didn't think he should have to submit to a UA. I told him he could refuse. He said he wasn't going to refuse. So then I gave him the option, and he said he didn't have to go. He had just went before he came down, that he had to go to work later in the day, that he had an appointment later in the day. And I told him that if he was willing to stay and do a UA, he could sit in the hall and drink some water. And when he was ready to go, to let me know. And when I went out a little bit later, he was gone.
And did he have contact with law enforcement that was unreported?
Let me look really quick at my report. I know I have it marked. I just don't remember what it was. He was arrested on September 19th, 2024 in Butler County, bonded out later that night, and he did not report that contact to me until September 23rd when we had our meeting. He didn't report it within the 24 hours as required by his probation agreement.
And now, after he didn't give the UA and left, you said he was late another time. How often do you have appointments scheduled for on your normal calendar?
How often do I have him scheduled on a calendar?
Well, for instance, you said he was 30 minutes late. Does that cause it to run over into your next meeting or your next schedule?
It can. I set appointments every 30 minutes. I mean, not necessarily every day, every 30 minutes I have appointments, but I set a 30-minute appointment window. And if they don't report within 15 minutes, then it's considered a late report. And I have a lot of people that report 5-10 minutes late because they're at work and they need to take a break or something like that. But if they're more than 15 minutes late, it's considered a late report.
And we've already talked to they've already admitted that he didn't pay on this case. Had he been paying on his other obligations?
No.
When did he finally start making payments on his other obligations?
After this warrant and the Butler County warrant was issued.
When he initially began on supervision, did he have employment?
He reported he was working at Cobalt.
Did you ever receive any verification of his employment from Cobalt?
I did not.
And did he end up losing that job?
Yes, he reported that he was on a layoff, and then the next month he reported that he was no longer working for them.
Okay. And when did he finally get employment again?
September 23rd, July 25th, he reported he had been fired, but June 24th, he reported he was no longer working for Cobalt. July 25th, he reported he had been fired, and then on September 23rd, he reported he was then working for Sonic in Augusta.
Okay. All right. And did you ask him for any other UAs or testing besides the one he walked out or away on?
No. Typically what I do is if they fail a UA and they're willing to do a sanction, then we do that. If they walk out or they do not complete a UA or they fail and they won't admit to use, then I issue a warrant. And once I issue a warrant, I typically do not do another UA until after that warrant has been resolved and they've been placed back on probation if that's what the court does.
Okay. In this case, has Mr. Zeiner been reporting to you since he walked out and got the warrant?
He has. He called me after he left. He called me, said he had his appointment he had to go to, so he had left, wanted to know what his next report date was, and he has made his meetings since then.
Has he completed any UA since then?
He has not. He's been on warrant status, and I typically do not do UAs when they're on warrant status because we're already on a warrant status.
Your Honor, I will pass the witness to the defense.
Mr. House?
Mr. Bauer, how often does he report?
He reports once a month.
And you mentioned that he was 30 minutes late one time. He left one meeting early. Were there any other violations as far as
not as far
meetings?
Not as far as reporting that I can recall.
Okay. So in general, he's reporting fairly regularly, although he certainly was 30 minutes late the one time.
Yeah, I want to say, and I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say that we've moved meetings once or twice, but that was done prior to the meeting. And if it's done prior to the meeting, then I don't consider it. If they call after the meeting and say, hey, I need to reschedule, then it's considered a missed meeting. But I believe we've moved a couple meetings to accommodate his schedule and stuff, if I remember correctly. But I think that's only been like once or twice. But those aren't issues because it was done prior to the meeting time.
You mentioned that you also supervised him in Butler County, is that right?
Yes, I have him on a Butler County case as well.
And has that case been disposed of as far as the motion in that case?
No, it's set for January 7th.
Okay.
I apologize. It's set for January 13th. He has a non-reporting probation set for January 7th.
Has he worked with you as far as making payments on his court costs in other counties in Butler and Greenwood?
No, he was on the Butler County case prior to this, and he's paid nothing in any of those cases until the warrants were issued. And then once the warrants were issued, he went in and paid the Butler County, both Butler counties and the Greenwood County cases off in full all the same day after the warrants were issued.
Would it be fair to say that he has worked most of the time he's been on probation, first at Cobalt and then at Sonic?
He's reported that he's worked, but I haven't gotten any verification that he's actually working, but he's been reporting that he's working.
All right. You don't have any evidence that he's not working at Sonic?
No, I don't have any evidence either way.
All right. With Butler and Greenwood paid off, he could concentrate now on Elk County, is that right?
I mean, he could, yes.
All right. And he did pay $25 last week. Did you get?
Yes, he's
notice of
reported
that?
to me at least, he's reported at least twice to me that he was going to have it paid prior to this, paid in full prior to this court date. But he did pay 25 last week.
Okay. Is this his first motion to revoke probation as far as Elk County?
Yes.
Judge, I think that's all the questions I have for Mr. Bauer.
Mr. Bauer, when was it that Mr. Zeiner claims that he started working at Cobalt?
When he was convicted on May 29th of 2024, he reported to the court at that time that he was working for Cobalt.
So at the time of sentencing, and Cobalt is a boat company or boat manufacturer in Neodesha,
Correct.
which generally pays fairly well.
Yes.
And when did he claim that he had lost that job or stopped working there?
June 24th, when he reported to me, he reported that he was no longer working, that they were on a shutdown or something. Something was going on at the plant, so they were not working. And then in July 25th, he reported he had been fired.
All right, you indicated he was arrested on September 19th in Butler County. Was that on the motion to revoke or new charge?
That was on a warrant for his non-reporting probation in Butler County that he is on. The county attorney's office issued a warrant in that case because he had not complied with the terms of his non-reporting probation at that time.
Okay, so it wasn't a new allegation of a new crime.
No.
All right. All right. When did he indicate that he was working at Sonic after in July, saying that he had lost his job or been fired at Cobalt?
September 23rd, when he reported that he was working at Sonic, but only working a few hours a week. And he was driving from Howard to Augusta for that job.
All right. Thank you. Redirect, Ms. Gillette.
Judge, I only have a couple of things to go over. Has Mr. Zeiner been arguing with you about his cases?
We've had a few discussions about his cases and how they should be handled.
And is he constantly focused only on the payment issues and not on the other conditions of probation?
Yeah, it's most of our discussions has been my case in Butler's paid, so therefore you need to close that case. I was told once it was paid, that case would get closed. There shouldn't be a revocation because I've paid it off like I was told to. It's been mostly about payments on the cases.
And did he understand that the revocation was filed for multiple reasons, not just payment issues?
We discussed that there was other issues, including the UA not being completed, and he has explained to me that he told me prior to that he had an appointment that he had to be at and he had to leave, and it wasn't his fault that he couldn't complete because he had to leave.
Okay. And now, well, Judge, there's a few things I wanted you to take judicial notice of, outside of questions for Mr. Bauer.
Let's
first
finish up with the examination of this witness, and then if there's judicial notice to be taken, I'll do that next. Any other questions, Mr. Bauer?
One quick one. So since you had filed a revocation in his cases, did you file in both of his cases?
I did.
And did you explain to him that he can be revoked in both cases?
Yes, I have explained to him that.
And did he have a hard time understanding some of that?
He was focused on the fact that the Butler County case should be closed and completely done with since he is paid, because he was originally on with CSO Kit Russell. And then when he got convicted in Elk County, they moved that case over to me. So he only had one person to report to. And he's continuously told me that Mr. Russell told him once the case was paid in full, the case was going to be closed. And so since it's been paid, it has to be closed at this point because that's what he was told. And I've tried to explain to him that once a warrant for revocation is filed, then we don't just close cases out because you pay them.
Okay. I will pass Mr. Bauer back to the defense.
Mr. House?
I think you've already testified to this, Tony, but I'll ask you, no new charges since he was placed on probation in Elk County. It's just that Butler was existing before Elk. Is that right?
Correct. As far as I know, he has not had any new charges. I check before every meeting with VineLink to see if there's been any new arrests. And I check through our state computer systems to see if there's any new cases filed prior to every meeting. I have not seen anything there. That's not to say he hasn't gotten something in a city somewhere that I can't check. But as far as I know, he's had no new violations.
And for the most part, reporting regularly, sometimes late.
Correct.
And for the most part, at least he reports employment either at Cobalt or Sonic during this period.
Correct. And he told me when he wasn't employed, he told me he wasn't working. I mean, he didn't try to hide that. And like I said, as far as I know, he worked at those, according to what he's reported, he worked at Cobalt and he worked at Sonic, or is working at Sonic. And during that time in between, he was reporting to me that he wasn't working and was looking for a job.
All right, no further questions. Thank you, Tony.
All right, Mr. Bauer, you're off the witness stand at this time. Ms. Gillette?
Judge, a few things we want you to take judicial notice of. First is the defendant had racked up numerous cases in a 12-month period, or over a couple of years, actually. There were 25 notices to him in 1 year, 12 months, regarding his driver's license for non-payments, for not concluding his cases, for not getting stuff done and wrapped up. 25 notices went out while he's been on probation
All right,
for this year from the DMV.
What is it you're asking me to take judicial notice of? Because that's not in evidence at this juncture. These 25 notices.
Of his certified driving record, and I have it pulled if you want to email to you and Mr. House. So he actually has been given lots of notice that he has not been paying. It's not normal to have 25 notices from the DMV. Mr. Bauer has had talks with him. He has numerous cases in other places, and he had not made any payments on this case until 12/18/24. He paid $25, and he had not been paying on his case as directed. He didn't pay on his other cases either until after the warrant, which he paid in November. He is facing revocation in both his Butler cases, one on January 8th, the other one on January 13th. Those case numbers are BU 2024 TR 333. That is the one scheduled for January 8th at 9 a.m. That is the one that is in non-reporting probation. The other case is BU 2023 TR 2406. That's the one Mr. Bauer has him on. It is scheduled for revocation 1/13/25. He still has balances owed in Sedgwick and Cali The Cali one has a $200 cash bond that could be applied if he signed it over to them. That's still out there unapplied. He has cases pending or pled or pending in Utah and Derby, Kansas, that happened during the same time period. Mr. Zeiner's not complied with reporting by being late. He's not complied with reporting by not showing up, and he's left meetings that he was at now. Did not UA, got upset about being UA'd, and we just asked the court to take judicial notice of the case.
Is the judge coming in?
And-
No,
Oh, you're just, well, all right, I'll leave you
I've
in.
got a little Zoom hearing. This is where I found a place.
Right, I'll leave you to, you have a good, happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
So there are more than just payment violations here. Mr. Zeiner just wants to talk about payments. This is not about payments. This is about payments, not reporting, not UAing. This is about, even when he did maintain employment, he didn't pay on his cases or make any efforts to make any payments. None of the payments were made until after the warrant to revoke was filed in 3 different cases, both Butlers and the Elk. So he was not making efforts to be compliant on probation. There was never proof of his employment turned in, no pay stubs or any effort made to turn in his employment other than just saying he is employed. We'd ask the court to find that the defendant violated his.
Okay, that sounds like a closing argument. Mr. House, did you have any evidence that you wish to present on your client's behalf?
Your Honor, I think my client would testify pretty much to what Mr. Bowers said.
Are you calling him as a witness or just going to?
I think I'll call him. I think I will call him. I think we need
Mr.
to clear
Zeiner,
a couple things.
raise your right hand, please. Your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, we don't have any sound there. Can you turn up the sound at the sheriff's office, please?
I do.
All right, Mr. Zeiner, do you so swear?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. You're under oath. Mr. House?
Okay, Mr. Zeiner, talk up so everyone can hear you. You've heard the testimony of your court service officer, Tony Bauer,
Yes,
and do you agree with generally with the statements he's made?
well, some of them.
All right, as to reporting, have you been reporting regularly?
Yes, I report regularly.
Have you been
And-
late a couple times?
Well, the day I refused my UA, I came in early, like 6 hours early.
All right. Now you're under oath. I'm asking you, were you employed at Cobalt approximately the time you were sentenced in this case?
I sure was. And
And then at some point, did they have a layoff?
yes, they did.
Now, when they lay off, do they lay off several people?
Well, everybody came back after the month of layoffs. Then I got fired shortly after that.
All right, but you came back after the layoff and then you got
Yes.
fired?
Yes,
All right. Did you start looking for a job then, another job?
yes, I did.
And where did you look?
I looked all over the place. I looked on Indeed. I put like 60 applications in. Then Sonic called me back, so I went there. I figured a job's better than no job at all.
Well, and so you got a job at Sonic, and when did you start there?
I think late August or early September. I can't remember for sure.
All right, and Mr. Bauer reported that when you came for your September meeting, you told him you were employed at Sonic.
Yeah,
Now you're saying under oath that you were working at Cobalt until you were laid off in July, and you got a job at Sonic either late August or early September, and you reported that.
yes,
Now, much has been made of the fact that you didn't do anything on payments until you got the warrants in these two cases to revoke your probation. You paid off Greenwood and Butler, is that right?
2 cases in Butler and 1 in Greenwood.
About how much did you pay in Butler County?
About altogether, it was like $900 and some change.
Is that Butler County?
No, that's Butler and
Butler and Greenwood?
No,
Okay.
2 cases in Butler and 1 case in Greenwood.
Okay, you've had no new charges since your sentencing in this case, is that right?
That's right.
How do you get to work?
My girlfriend takes me to work every day.
Does she work there?
No, she don't.
Okay. And she picks you up at the end of the day?
Yes, she does.
And what days do you work?
Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. From 11:30 to 4 or 5, depending if they're busy.
All right, during the times you've been at Sonic, have you considered trying to find another job, or at least looking into it that might pay a little more?
Yes, I have. I called Dry Basement to see if I could get my job back there. And when somebody leaves, they will let me know.
Okay. How much do you make an hour at Sonic?
I make $11 an hour.
All right.
And when I worked at Coal Boat, I was making payments on a motel room for the week and paying my electric and water bill for that house I live in. That's why it was hard making payments. But I'm also paying in 3 other counties too,
And this all deals with
driving.
driving while suspended, right?
Yes.
And Elk County was the last one you had?
No, Greenwood County was the last one I had. I tried to pay some money on Elk, but they wouldn't let me pay online at the time.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell the judge?
I'm waiting for my federal tax return. Then I was to pay Elk in full, and I still got to pay Derby, and I still got to pay Udall and some on Cali County.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
Ms. Gillette?
I think he's admitted to most everything, Your Honor, so I'm not gonna ask him any further questions.
Right, Mr. Zeiner, when did you pay off these Butler County and Greenwood County cases?
When I got my warrant and I paid it shortly after that. I don't.
Okay, when are we talking about date wise? Was this like last week? Was this when?
Last month, I believe. When I got arrested, I forgot the date.
Well, there's testimony that September 19th, you were arrested in Butler County. But Mr. Bowers indicated that you paid this off last week, the Butler case.
I made a payment.
Okay, ma'am, you're not on the witness stand.
Excuse me,
You
I'm
need to
sorry.
be quiet.
Yes, sir.
I made a payment in Elk last week, but I paid Butler, Greenwood, and 2 cases in Butler and 1 in Greenwood last month, I believe. And I'm waiting on the tax return to make this in full, because I ain't got my stimulant checks yet. So I'm waiting on that check right now. And I told Tony this, and he said, okay, but.
Mr. House, any redirect?
No, Your Honor. I think
Ms. Gillette, any recross?
No, Judge, I can tell you the payments for
Okay.
Butler and
Hold on,
Greenwood were
hold on.
made.
Okay, Mr. Zeiner, you're off the stand. Mr. House, any additional evidence?
no, Your Honor.
Right. Ms. Gillette, well, this will be closings.
If you take judicial notice of those 2 cases, Judge, the cases were paid on November 14th after his arrest. The payment in this case of $25 wasn't made until 12/18. Had been 5 days ago that he finally made a payment on this case. I don't know about the Udon Derby case because they're not available on Odyssey or a public way to search them. There's $244 due on the Sedgwick County 23 TR 669. The Cowley County 23 TR 506 has $605 due. It does have a $200 cash bond that could be released if he signed it over to the court to pay on his fines from when he got arrested on it. He had a cash bond later on for, I don't know if it was a failure to appear on a pay or appear or something, but he had a $200 cash bond on it to apply. So the only payments that have been made were November 14th on Butler and Greenwood and $25 on 12/18.
Right,
As far
thank you.
as far as recommendations, Your Honor, well, if you revoke him, my recommendations are going to be a significant sanction for not reporting and for walking out on the UA. I believe that he does need to continue to make his payments on probation. And I would ask for, after he serves a significant sanction, I don't know, 2 weeks or so, and he needs to submit a UA as soon as possible with Mr. Bauer. It may be possible that the sheriff's office be able to UA him today. They have some in the past. But I believe that he needs to have a sanction to understand fully this is not just about paying, but this is about complying with all aspects of your supervision.
Thank you. Mr. House.
Your Honor, I do note that I believe Mr. Zeiner now takes notice that he's got more things to do than work and pay and report, although not a whole lot more than that. So he has no new cases since he was sentenced in this case. He has, for the most part, reported to Mr. Bauer. He has reported work and he's testified as to work, and that he's looking for work that now that would pay more than $11 an hour. As far as a sanction, I understand that there has to be some penalty for not getting things paid off and following all the terms. I think under the circumstances, I would recommend a weekend sanction for 2 weekends. He's still got the Butler County case to deal with in January. And that, who knows how that'll turn out. But as to Elk County, again, I'll emphasize he has no new cases. He's reported for the most part. He's worked for the most part. He's paid off. He's been working with Mr. Bauer and he's paid off Butler and Greenwood County. And he would make payments now in Elk County. We would request that if it works out with his probation officer and he's put back on probation, that he might have an opportunity to do a little community service to help expedite clearing up his debt in this case. And I think that's about all we have to offer at this time, Judge.
Very well. But in regards to judicial notice, I'll take judicial notice of payments. Those are court file records in regards to that. I'm not going to take any notice of things that were sent out from in a certified driving record that wasn't offered as an exhibit. And there are various factors that come into play. I don't think that comes under the judicial notice. So I'm not taking that into account. I'm not taking into account that he has a pending motion to revoke. Those are pending. He's presumed not guilty on those. And and so forth. I am going to take notice in regards to, as I indicated, the payments that he's made and when those were made. I note that the defendant, when he applied for court-appointed counsel before this case was resolved, he indicated he had very few hours at Sonic. At time of sentencing, he indicates that he was working at Cobalt, which is a fairly good paying job, but we manufacturing job that people in this area chosen to do, but or are able to, when they're able to get on, they generally are able to take care of things. He didn't pay anything at all. And then when he's confronted about it, then later on, months later, claims he didn't work there anymore. He'd been fired. There's never been any proof that he's presented that he worked there at all. And if he was working there, he didn't make any efforts to pay on this case. So, and likewise, he wasn't making efforts to pay on the Butler cases, not until he was arrested. I think Mr. Zeiner is very well versed with how these things go and comes into court and making claims and insurance that he's going to do, and then he puts it off until he's looking at a revocation. This is a driving while suspended third offense. I'm pretty consistent in regards to warning people placed on probation. In regards to, I anticipate that I expect them to comply. His failure to stay when he was told he needed to do a UA is concerning. Him claiming today that he was there 6 hours early for his appointment is just an indication to me that he's going to say whatever he thinks is going to help. 6 hours in advance isn't showing up for your appointment, and it's not showing up and giving your UA as requested. So I do find he's violated the terms of his probation in return in regards to reporting as directed. Also in regards to not paying when he had employment and was capable of making payments. I note from the file, he's been able to make bonds. When he's arrested, he makes bonds, but he doesn't make payments in regards to his obligations in this case. So I am revoking him. His original sentence was 90 days in the county jail. He'll get jail credit for time that he served on this case. But I am revoking his probation and remanded him to serve a sentence at this time.
Sir.
That concludes the hearing.
Sir,
No, Mr.
my mom's
Planner.
really sick. And Mr. House knew this. My mom's really sick. She got
Mr. Zeiner, I'm not going to, you had your opportunity to make presentations, you did. And now when you got the ruling, you're coming up with something new.
No,
And
I'm serious.
I'm not
Mr.
going to
House.
hear it. You are revoked.
Mr. House.
We are adjourned.
Ask Mr. House.
The respondent needs to be taken into custody.
Sir. Oh my God. I didn't do nothing wrong. I drove. I don't drive no more.
We're adjourned.
Be safe, be well, sleep sweet, and much love.